With the recent changes to hand cannons, Zaouli's Bane, which I'm gonna call Zaouli, seems like a viable option. So go grab a beer and let's objectively compare the two and how they go head to head. Skipping over the clickbait and exaggerated "you need this weapon now" title, explosive payload and Firefly are the reason you want Fatebringer for PvE. Regardless of where you shoot, there will be an explosion with good damage, and if you have good aim, it's gonna do a lot more. So here we have my Fatebringer, which, ignore the Adept, it does the same damage as a regular one with set perks, and so does my Zaouli. I chose these because, let's be honest, you're not using Pugilist or Elemental Capacitor, you know why you want this weapon. So looking at both weapons against a taken in this lost sector, looking at the raw Firefly headshots, we are doing 8,964,000 damage with the Firefly explosion itself, hitting nearby targets for 17,642. This number, however, will change depending on how far the enemies are, of course, but it is still pretty nice. The Knight, who obviously won't die to one bullet, allows us to see the explosive payload and its numbers, those being around 5,564,000 on top of the 8,601,000 for the headshot. Now looking at Zaouli, we are hitting 8,149,000 per headshot, which is slightly less than Fatebringer, but when we headshot the Knight, we are doing 7,819 for the headshot and around 5,059,000 for the explosive payload shrapnel. Looking at the Firefly explosion to the nearby enemies, we see damage numbers of 18,275, which again depends on the distance, but pretty remarkable nonetheless. Both of these weapons have the same amount of ammo at around 10 to 13 shots, and they fire at the same pace, give or take, and they also have the same perks. Now moving on to the pros and cons. You cannot craft a Fatebringer, but you can craft a Zaouli. So unless you're lucky, like I was, and you get a 5 out of 5 God roll Fatebringer, you're better off getting the Zaouli. If you run a Master King's Fall and land a 5 out of 5 Zaouli God roll, which is much harder to do than a Fatebringer, by the way, you can put on Adept Big Ones on it, because Adept Big Ones is the better version of boss spec, and you can only equip it on a master raid weapon. I have them fairly tied. If I'm being honest, Zaouli has another point going for it, which is that it is origin trait heavy. Runneth over is good, meaning as long as you have people in your activity, you can completely disregard any magazine and ammo perks, because if you don't know, runneth over, if you reload next to other players, you get more ammo in your magazine, and this allows you to run range, handling, stability, or other perks on your weapon. You don't have to use backup mag. Here you can see that Zaouli hits this little sector boss for about 6,133,000, combining the headshot with explosive payload, but since the hand cannon is solar, Warlocks can benefit from Sanguine Alchemy, which has 2 built-in surges that match your subclass while in a well or rift. No, they don't stack, but you can see that I am now doing 7,176,000, which is slightly better, and let's face it, you're going to be using rifts anyway. That on top of being able to run 3 different surges on your legs for another element, it works fairly well. So to conclude, which is better? Objectively, probably Zaouli, because of all I just showed you, but Fatebringer works so well that if you have one already with explosive Firefly, you might as well just save the time unless you want Zaouli for more options or aesthetics. If you enjoyed, I appreciate if you subscribed, since it could help me turn this into a slight living. Thanks for watching though. Goodbye everyone.